Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to another live stream. I'm your host, Suzette Speaks. This is an edition of my YouTube channel show, which I'm calling Let's Talk Justice. Let's Talk Justice is a series I've been doing for quite some time, both here on YouTube and on Facebook, where I talk about legal issues and try to delve a little deeper in terms of cases. I hope I'm not getting feedback. I don't know. I can hear myself. Give me 1 second. My apologies. I had my screen on as well, but I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for watching. If you're watching on the Facebook pages of Let's Talk Justice, if you're watching on my YouTube channel, I want to welcome you. This won't be a very long stream, but I did want to do some follow up on the case of AMIR LOCKE. If you are not familiar with AMIR LOCKE, I want to do a quick refresher. I had a wonderful stream back when this first happened. AMIR LOCKE was was a young man without a record, I should say, who was a part of a set of very unfortunate circumstances. And unfortunately, the outcome of a no-knock warrant that was served in Minneapolis. And I want to go through some of the facts. I think some of you may be already familiar with the case, some of you may not. But I'll do a quick introduction. I'm Suzette Speaks. I'm a TV host and attorney based in Miami. I'm grateful that you guys are here. Hello. Before the billions, drop a comment. Let me know you're watching. Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Just wanted to come in and do a follow-up stream to an excellent show I had with Officer Nathan Daly. We talked about the AMIR LOCKE case when it first occurred in great detail. Please go back and watch that stream. And I think I will drop the link for that AMIR LOCKE stream because it was so in depth. And because Nathan Daly is a law enforcement, which I say a law enforcement hero, really, but a retiree. He gave such great insight as to what he saw when it came to what happened throughout the 10 seconds that the police entered the apartment that AMIR LOCKE was staying in. It was his cousin's apartment. He was a guest there. They used a key to enter the apartment. And unfortunately, AMIR LOCKE was sleeping, deep sleeper, said his mom, sleeping wrapped up in a blanket when a SWAT team had entered. There was dispute between myself and Officer Nathan Daly as to whether the police announced before they crossed the threshold into the apartment. But according to Officer Nathan Daly, he confirmed that when he watched the tape and rewatched the tape, and I won't be playing it here, it's quite graphic, and you really need to be warned because it is quite sensitive in nature. If you do watch it, it's available online, but I'm not going to play it here. I'll only use still shots as my custom. So I want to welcome you. If you're watching on the Let's Talk Justice page, welcome. I am discussing tonight in a brief live. I won't be here very long, but tonight's live, please hit the like button, is about the AMIR LOCKE case and the fact that it was announced today by prosecutors that no charges will be filed against the police that were involved in the shooting. And we're going to go over some of the facts a little bit. I encourage you, go back and watch the stream, the AMIR LOCKE case with myself and Officer Nathan Daly. I'm going to drop it either in the description or in the chat if I can find it while we talk. But it struck me today because, again, a young Black man, 22 years old, who was rightfully an owner of a gun, who was awakened from his sleep after police entered his abode or the abode where he was staying using a key, did not knock. According to Officer Nathan Daly, as he watched the film, he says, yes, in fact, they did announce their presence. Police, hands up, before they crossed the threshold into the home, into the apartment. And that, unfortunately, and we went through it play by play with Officer Nathan Daly. AMIR LOCKE, startled, waking up out of his sleep. Anybody with common sense could see that he was not a threat. But unfortunately, he did possess a firearm, although it was licensed legally to him. He had the right to possess it. And he drew for his weapon, not knowing what was occurring. being startled from under a blanket to loud noises and yelling and screaming, telling him hands up without him even, I don't even think this young man had cognition really as to what was happening to him when it in fact happened to him. But he did what any reasonable person or reasonable gun owner would do, which was to reach for his weapon because he probably thought that something in fact was going on that was dangerous, that was a danger to him. So in reaching for his gun, his finger was never on the trigger. You could see it, and I can put up the still picture of it because again, I will not be showing the film. I find it very distressing. And for those of us who are very sensitive to violence in that way, I would encourage you, if you feel up to it, you can go watch it. But we're just going to talk a little bit about the outcome today, which is that no charges will be filed against specifically the officer that pulled the trigger and shot AMIR LOCKE 3 times. Prosecutors did not think it was reasonable to charge him, and we'll talk about why. So please hit the like button. Welcome one and all. Again, I won't be up too late tonight. It's about 11:15 Eastern time tonight. I want to welcome you. If you're watching, please go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Andre, thanks. Nice to see you. Andre says the police were right. Thank you for your opinion. Appreciate you. JT Coin Rings, nice to see you, says hello all, welcome. Some breezes in the building. Thank you, thank you. A Magnificent, excellent to see you. Andre, nice to see you, sir. Welcome. Shout out to all of you watching. Ace Butterfly, nice to see you. And I thank you for watching. Exactly. There's so much to this story. Again, I will not be, I'm reading the chat, guys. That's what I was responding to some of the comments. But I won't be going over all of the play-by-play because, like I said, we did a good deep dive. Go back and watch the stream with me and Officer Nathan Daly. We did a great deep dive into the facts of the case and why it seemed unreasonable, perhaps, in one man's opinion and Officer Daly's opinion when looking at the still shots. Again, hindsight is 2020. We have the luxury of sitting here after the fact, not in the heat of the moment, not in those 10 seconds. That split second decision must be made to either preserve, according to the officers, one's life or the life of a colleague. So that is what was being argued. And unfortunately, or some would say fortunately, again, it depends on where you land in terms of the facts that are presented. Some would say it was justifiable. The police in this case, although, again, this gentleman, this young 22-year-old gentleman was underneath a blanket and was asleep, fast asleep, and barely had cognition as to what was actually happening to him, reached for a weapon. And because he did that, ended up dead. And there are those who will agree with what prosecutors found, which was there was not sufficient evidence. Right? And a reasonable person in the officer's shoes with that officer's training would have done the same thing. So we're going to discuss it for a little bit. Welcome. Hit the like button as you come in, please. And if you can, tell me where you're watching from. Ace Butterfly so I guess we can add sleeping while black. Thank you for your opinion, Ace Butterfly. I know it's a very, very sensitive topic. There are so many people that are, up in arms with what was decided. There are other people that think that this was justified and that the officers were in their right, were acting reasonably when they saw the weapon and it being pointed in their direction of another officer, that it was something that could justifiably, so the prosecutor argued, give the officer, basically the means or the basis for not being charged, because it would be reasonable. A Magnificent, thank you for being here, says something similar happened to my baby sister. Wow, cops didn't announce that they were cops, and my sister started spraying, hit a cop, whoa, and the cop shot her. Whoa, that's rough. That's very rough. This is what Wow, didn't announce. The no-knock warrants are very, very sensitive topic. I mean, we could get into why I believe, federally, there may need to be regulation from the feds instead of it being a state and local issue. But it is, this is so unfortunate. That's why I believe that's what is being said now. But city of Minneapolis said this already. Back in 2020, they said they were going to ban no-knock warrants, said the mayor. Hopefully they do it for real now. Now they're in a position, they're saying, to end all no-knock warrants within the city limits by Friday. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, thanks for the super chat. Big up yourself. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, that was my celebratory horn. Thank you, JT Coin Rings. I'm watching from B More. What up, B More? I love the Baltimore accent. I love the Baltimore accent. Big up yourself. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for showing love with the super chat tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sunbreeze says hit the like button. Please do. West Philly in the building, says Andre. Thank you for being here. What was the purpose of going to the address? So we're going to revisit some of the facts. I think that would be helpful because if you can't right now, obviously go back and watch my stream, the AMIR LOCKE case with Officer Nathan Daly. Do so tomorrow. So that can give you some basics. But what was interesting was an Officer Daly read the warrant. I have not. But from what he described, it was for evidence, possible evidence linked to a prior homicide. So just a brief recap. The no-knock warrant was issued by a judge because police felt that evidence involved in I think it was several weeks before homicide, would likely disappear or likely be destroyed. Therefore, it wasn't for a person. It wasn't a warrant for a person. It was a warrant for evidence. And when I spoke with Officer Daly, we were talking about how imminent was that for you to get a no-knock warrant. What was the argument made to that judge? Because the homicide investigation that had happened was several weeks prior to this no-knock warrant being issued. So whether or not it was actually in, like I said, in urgent need of being served so evidence wouldn't be lost is arguable. So the judge did grant it though, and they went to this address looking for evidence, not for a person, but it was evidence related to a homicide. So that is why they entered this apartment where this young man was sleeping. King Messiah says the judicial system is rigged. Your opinion. Thank you. Say her name. My goodness. This also is very reminiscent of the Breonna Taylor case where another city, a no-knock warrant was issued. And when the police came in, Breonna and her boyfriend, I believe, were startled. The boyfriend draws his gun, thinking somebody is trying to break in and kill them. Shots are fired. Shots are returned by the police. And unfortunately, Breonna Taylor lost her life in this way. So no-knock warrants have been a controversial topic. They have been front and center in the news in several large cases. And here we have one where AMIR LOCKE, who was not a resident at that location, but happened to be visiting, right? People have sleepovers, people kick it with their family and their friends and whatnot. It's within his right to have been there. But this no-knock warrant in particular, which was one that was being served for evidence collection, right? Not for a person, right? Told the judge, I'm not reading the warrant to you, but kind of just in a summation that there is evidence that we think may be in jeopardy of being discarded, destroyed, etc. And we need to go get it before it is, relating to a homicide that had occurred prior, right? So that's why they were there. So thank you for your opinion. QWERTY Keyboard says, AMIR LOCKE chose the wrong friends. Wow. chose the wrong friends, period. Still so sad though. All right, we can unpack that. I don't necessarily agree, because I think, like I said, there's a lot more to police behavior in this case that we must dissect. But I hear what you're saying. In terms of, you were saying he's responsible for the friends he had. If he had better friends, he would not have died. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree completely, but your opinion is welcome and respected. Thank you. Yes, Breonna Taylor, we remember you. Let's see. Ace Butterfly adds, there comes a point when the cost of someone's life versus police practices need to be weighed and evaluated. And I think within the stream that I did with Officer Nathan Daly, it was very clear that the largest dysfunction in policing is training. In terms of, I think a lot of great police officers, and by great, I mean those who want to do the right thing. But it seems to me their training may fall short, and their training may be failing them, as we are seeing in cases like this one that we hear so much about. Of course, there are police that do great things every single day, and we'll never hear about, those unsung heroes that, operate with excellence and integrity. But we hear about those who are, in that gray area where, if you were in their circumstance with their training, would you have done the same thing? And the prosecutor in this case thought how, I think his name is Hanneman, Officer Hanneman, responded was in fact, yes, Mark Hanneman, I think is how you say his name. So within the article, I'm going to read a couple of just highlights from a CNN article. You'll see it also in the description that talks about, why the prosecutors declined to file charges against the police officers involved. Again, we're talking the AMIR LOCKE case. Wanted to give a quick update because this is a major development that no police officers will be charged in his death, in the shooting death that occurred with respect to this no-knock warrant that took place in February. No charges will be filed. There are people that are up in arms about it. Welcome. Y'all hit the like button. It's something again, it makes me very, very sad to speak of, but I do think, especially because we did such an in-depth show about this, it was good to just do a follow-up and talk a little bit to you guys about why. So as you come in, hit the like button. I'll go over some of the facts just briefly, but again, I would prefer if you were able to go back and watch this case for this young man. It's so sad. It's like a crazy set of circumstances, but not all that unfamiliar from what has happened in pop culture. And when I say that, I mean cases that have made it to the national headlines. And there are so many different cases, guys, that are happening all over this country that no one hears about. But these are the major cases that have hit the public psyche and make us think, is there something wrong with our system? Is there something wrong with our police training? Is there something wrong with how we are implementing and applying the law? And it's good to question it. It's good to question it as we go over some of the facts. But an officer shot, just remember, Mr. Locke, AMIR LOCKE, within seconds. I think I counted 9 seconds. Some people are saying 10 seconds of crossing the threshold into the apartment, shots were fired. So it happened and transpired very quickly. But prosecutors said that after Locke emerged from the couch with a handgun and raised it towards the officer, that is, and I have a still shot, I'm going to bring it up shortly, the officers and others on the Minneapolis SWAT team were serving their warrant and were, in fact, based on what the prosecutor saw through the video, through the body cam, they argue that, according to a statement from prosecutors, Locke's actions after the officers entered the apartment on a judicially authorized search warrant constituted a specifically articulable threat. That's the language they use. A specifically articulable threat, meaning that they believed, it would be reasonable that that officer would have believed that his life or one of his fellow officers, because of the direction that the weapon was being pointed in, was likely a threat, an imminent threat to that officer. So this is the language that the prosecutors use. They continue to say these circumstances are such that an objectively reasonable officer in. So you got to kind of be reasonable, and you have to think about it in terms of what would an officer with the amount of training, with the amount of experience that Mr. Hannibin had, would they have done the same thing? So that's the standard. It's not what you and me as lay people would do. It is what an officer in their position would do, right? So reasonable officer in a similar situated position, would they do the same thing? That is the standard. So there, in these circumstances, are such that an objectively reasonable officer in Officer Mark Hanneman's position would have perceived an immediate threat of death or great bodily harm that was reasonably likely to occur, and an objectively reasonable officer would not delay in using deadly force. That's what the prosecutor said in their statement, according to a statement from Attorney General Keith Ellison and Hennepin County Attorney Michael Freeman. So one of the attorneys from the Locke family, of course, said it was obviously a disappointing day for the family. They are very strong in their beliefs that the incredible wrong that happened to Amir is going to save other people's lives. Said Jeff Storms, they're one of their attorneys. They're not going to let the lack of criminal charges slow them down one bit. Locke's mother, remember her, and I'll bring up her picture, says she was working Amir Locke was working as a food delivery driver. I think he was doing DoorDash at the time, and a couple other delivery service type jobs in the area, and had the gun for his own protection. She had her son cremated because she didn't want his remains to stay in Minneapolis. Wow. Of course, like I said, this shooting, like the Breonna Taylor shooting, drew national attention because Minneapolis has been kind of like ground zero, the epicenter of a lot of these shootings. George Floyd, Mr. Blake, so many. So this is a 14-second video, y'all. I'm not even going to play it. Like I said, it is a disturbing video. This is the mayor, the police chief. I don't know if you recall, guys, from when I talked about the shooting as it first occurred. They had a really kind of like debacle of a press conference. This is the same judge that signed the no-knock warrant, Judge Cahill, that was involved in other cases. That was really interesting as well. That, his mother, Karen, and his father, Andre Locke, from press conferences when the shooting first occurred. But what I really want to get to is how, here we go, the entrance into the apartment. You see him wrapped up, almost, bundled under a sheet on the couch. And from the police officer's view, you see him reach there. I'm going to give you a closer view to what they saw. And I think this was the pivotal moment, guys. And you can see the firearm that he had legally. He had license. His finger was not on the trigger, you can see. And we talked about that with Officer Nathan Daly, that it was along the side of the gun. He didn't even get a chance to really cock the gun or put his finger on the trigger. Yet and still, the prosecutor said there was enough evidence from the body camera to say that, a reasonable officer could, in the same position as Hanneman, would see that there was an imminent threat of danger. What do you all think? I'm going to read some of the comments before I sign off. I just wanted to do this follow-up for this young man, this young man's family. It deserves that. It deserves that, right? Life cut short. Do you think it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances? Do you think the police were wrong? I'm going to read a few of these comments and see what you guys have to say. King Mosiah, thank you, says, it has nothing to do with training and everything to do with systemic racism. Thank you for your opinion. So you have a fully different assessment that this is training is just the cover for really what is the undertone in terms of maybe what some would deem the intention or the purpose or the goal of the criminal justice system. Your opinion. Thank you for sharing. Andre Terry adds, it takes you longer to be a licensed cosmetologist than a police officer. You tell me if there is a problem with police training. Yes, I think Officer Nathan Daly often says that for what police officers do, you could be on the beat within a matter of months. And he was suggesting that, it should be almost, the very minimum, like a year, and then ongoing, to be in training, to be almost like an apprenticeship. Because there's no way you take a regular dude, and he always emphasizes, check out Officer Nathan Daly's channel, y'all. He always emphasizes, like, we try to pretend like the police are superhuman, that all of a sudden this is not the general population. This is not the regular, run of the mill American. This is someone, that is just an exemplar of good morals, good habits, physical strength, and all this other stuff. No, they're just regular people that signed a job application like me and you. So the vetting process was also something that he brought up as being something that probably needs to be addressed more than anything, as well as training. But again, everyone's opinion is welcome. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. Andre Scott says the judgment is correct. So you do believe it's justified in what Mark Hanneman saw, as in the suspect, even though he was not mentioned anywhere on the warrant, had nothing to do with the prior homicide. That in that moment where a weapon was raised, that the officer therefore had a reasonable threat and could therefore use the type of force that he used. I'm still torn because he was under a blanket and clearly startled. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still torn. The gun finger wasn't on the trigger. But again, I'm a Monday morning quarterback. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the moment when your adrenaline is rushing and people are rushing in as a SWAT team. And it's like mayhem, all this yelling, Even Officer Daly talked about that. One person should have yelled the commands. The kid was, I say kid, but he was a man, 22 years old, was confused. All these people yelling. He had no idea, my opinion, what was going on. And his mom has said that her son, in fact, was a deep sleeper. Ace Butterfly, thank you. As y'all hit the like button. Suzette Speaks, not going too long, but just wanted to bring you an update on the AMIR LOCKE case. We had done a wonderful stream with my guest, Officer Nathan Daly, now a couple months back when it first happened. Go back and check out that stream if you have not watched it. We're going over some brief facts today, but the real story, the update that many are, puzzled by, some people are upset about it, others, as you can see in the chat, agree with it, is that the prosecutors, the state attorney general, Keith Ellison, has decided not to file charges against the officer or any of the SWAT team that entered that apartment where a no-knock warrant was issued, and where, so sadly, AMIR LOCKE's life was taken. So we're just going over again some of the background, just for those who may not have known about the case, didn't follow the case. I don't know. This is an interesting. Ace Butterfly, let me get to you first. Kim Messiah, it is the people in the system. You have to gut all the people and start fresh. Interesting. Thank you, Ace Butterfly, for your opinion. Now, I don't know. I didn't read that today, whether they had caught up with the cousin or the people who they were initially trying to find evidence to prove that they were involved in a homicide. So that's an interesting question. The answer is I do not know. I do not know. So I think so. I think they probably will try a civil lawsuit. I would. And see if, culpability can be found in front of a jury that way. And then most likely, instead of going through the lawsuit, most likely most public entities will end up, in fact, settling, right? Coming to a settlement agreement with the family. But I definitely think they should. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. In his bed, in his bed. Um, Andre has a different opinion. That family is unbelievable, really. The police did a great job. Your opinion. Andre disagrees. The police are 100% wrong. Wow. Yeah, everybody's gonna see what they see through the facts. When a video is presented, it's amazing how some people see two completely different sets of circumstances. But this prosecutor said they saw the actions as reasonable. That a police officer with the same level of training, under the same circumstances, a reasonable police officer would have done the same thing, and that would be very difficult to prove otherwise. Chef, nice to see you back. Please, love and light to our lovely, loving, and litigious young yard gal. Thank you. I like the alliteration. Lovely, loving, and litigious. I love it. All right. The story and outcome hurts as always. When and where can we find our medicine? Pardon my enthusiasm. Oh my goodness. Um, Yes, I agree with you about it hurting, because anytime you see these stories, they are so devastating to our psyche. I think it leaves another, set of like scar tissue in a sense when we are reading, about a family that has lost a son, like a mother buried a 22-year-old, or had him cremated, but lost a 22-year-old in such a graphic, televised way. So it oftentimes hurts, um, mm, how crazy it can be for, things like this if you're living this. So yeah, it is I will drop the link real quick and see if anybody has any comments on this specific case. If not, I will probably see you guys Saturday and Sunday. I think I'm going to be doing a Saturday at noon and probably Sunday in the late evening. Um, I'm trying to confirm my Patreon will probably be Saturday morning for sure. I think we're going to do 10:30 Eastern on Saturday, and then I'll follow up with 2 streams on a Saturday and a Sunday. But just wanted to come on, you guys. I know it's a very, very sensitive topic. It's not easy to talk about, and it's not, when we talk about death by police, it is always going to trigger a lot of emotion and a lot of, because it's connected to a pattern that goes back historically. So many people are going to, place this within that pattern, and then others will try to see this as one singular event and try to assess it as such. But this prosecutor said they saw it that kind of way, said they saw it to where any reasonable police officer with the same amount of training, similarly situated as this gentleman, Mr. Mark Henneman, would have, in their words, perceived an immediate threat of death or great bodily harm that was reasonably likely to occur, and an objective, reasonable officer would not delay in using deadly force. Again, that was according to a statement from Attorney General Keith Ellison and Hennepin County Attorney Mark Freeman. So I'm going to give, I see DL Saint in the back. Let me give him a chance to try to, speak his mind. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Hey, how's it going? How you
I know you've
feeling?
been going through a lot, so I'm happy to see you up here, man. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm pushing through it. That's how I've always done. That's how my father taught me to do it. So I'm definitely gonna continue to do that. And then a buddy of mine, my buddy Jay Swans, he was like, you need to get on. You need to go do something. So we did a couple hours, and then I saw
Oh,
that you were on. Yeah, I saw that you were on, and I'm like, you know what, this is helping me, and it kind of, thanks to you. Shout out to you for your show on self care. You know what I
oh,
mean? I saw
awesome.
that, and then the next morning I got the bad news,
Yes.
and it was funny because you already had me in a certain mindset. So thank you for that, because that
Mm.
it just helped me. I don't know, it kind of prepared me a little bit. I mean, it hit me, but it still was like I was in that right mind. I was in that right space. So shout out to you, Miss Suzette.
Well,
Speak
I'm
to
happy to
us.
hear it. Again, things are so unpredictable now in life that I just like, boy, you just stand with people, sending positive thoughts, prayers, and vibes like to you. Everybody goes through struggles. Some of them are so much tougher than others, but I hear you. Keep, that therapy and, mental health and self care always in mind. That's all I'll say. That's all
Al-
I'll say. So
Always.
we'll talk offline. How about that? Let's go. So, what you think about this case?
It's tough. I read the article. Um, of course, it always comes up, and I mean, that's in my vein. I'm always looking at political stuff. My buddy Jay Swan is really he focuses on this. No knock warrants. I mean, they're bad. I mean, just no other way to put it. No knock
Mm,
warrants is bad, and I'm reading this article about what happened. The outcome, and there's two ways to look at it. You have law enforcement; they're doing what they feel they need to do and what they're empowered to do by law. But last night I had my buddy Jay Swans was here, my cousin Marvin were here,
mm-hmm.
my daughter's here. We're eating and we're talking. The things that you do when times like this happens. And I was thinking after I read the article, if someone were to kick the door in at that moment, I legally carry. My buddy Jay Swans legally carry. We're both very well trained,
Mm,
right? I have what I have in my house, not just what I keep on me, but like at
yeah,
home. I feel
yeah.
bad for anybody who tries to get in here.
That military training, yes.
I am better trained than 95% of law enforcement officers,
Mm,
and I am better equipped. So here's the thing: if there's a no knock warrant, you come in my house and let's say it's a mistake, I'm not waiting to see who comes around the corner. So where am I legally? I'm defending
mm,
myself. It's my right
right,
as a citizen.
right.
But how would that look in the media?
Mm,
So, 3 police officers were gravely injured or worse, executing a no knock warrant on the wrong door.
right.
And
Yeah,
but
that's why they're so dangerous. That's
that's
exactly
why
why
they're
they're
so
so
dangerous. If you
man.
beat on the door and say open up police, I'm gonna come open the door. That's
Yeah,
happened here. Please come
yeah,
knock on the door.
yeah.
I hear the door. I get to the door. I look out the peephole. I see it's the police. I'm armed. I'm armed. It's my door.
It's the most tricky, most scary position to be in. I remember there was a black judge here in Miami that I don't know why they thought something had happened to her at her house, but she was like yelling, "I have a gun inside. I'm a legal carrier." Like, and this is like, grown up black woman. And she says, "I'm legally carrying a gun." It's so crazy. It is
It
so
is
crazy
crazy.
how we have to be on the defensive. So, such that, police who are, and I see the comments, some are saying they use training as an excuse, but they're not well trained. They jumpy. Some of them are very jumpy. Some of them
That's
are
some of
not
them.
cut out for this type of work. They're here to get the pension. They're here to, and I'm not mad. You're putting your life on the line. I'm not saying you don't deserve, but I'm just saying it's not a career. It is a job. And unfortunately, when it is almost like I just want to get home and survive, it can be, people who are not as suited for this line of work who are there, and you don't want to get that one on your traffic stop, on your no knock, on whatever it is with your child, whoever you are. It is like if they're having I don't mean it in terms of just struggles. Everyone has struggles on their job, but if you get that police officer that is having struggles on the job, it's life and death. It's absolutely life and death. Let me read some of the comments. Let's see what the feedback is. Welcome, guys. Hit the like button as you come in. We're doing a late night stream. We're not going to be up late like yesterday, but we'll get to some of the comments here. Yeah, I saw this. Ace Butterfly says police always use training as their defense. Something has to happen with police training, though. I really do believe it, because shooting to kill as your only option does not suit every single circumstance. You have mental health, you have all kinds of stuff. People not guilty of anything that are living their lives, sleeping in their beds. And because of this possible, and again, I've not studied police training, I'm just going by what Officer Nathan Daly mentioned when we did the AMIR Locke case, play by play rundown review of facts as it just happened. Y'all go back and watch that stream. I'll put it in the description. But he talked a lot about like, yeah, no, we're not shooting. Because I was like, why don't they ever shoot someone in the leg? He was like, you know how hard it is to shoot someone in the leg? He's like, you got to take a body shot. He was very clear. He was like, no one is trained to shoot nobody. Because I always think, shoot him in the leg, shoot him in the knee, get it, do
I tell you
something that
what, Suzette,
like
next time I'm
they
in
don't do
Miami,
that.
next time I'm in Miami, I'll take you to the range with me, and I'll
I'm
let you go
nervous.
ahead and shoot something in the leg. Here you go. I'll put it. Well, I'll give you 5 feet. Go ahead, hit the leg.
They say it's so hard. They say it's completely like what in the heat of the moment, no one would be able to do that. So
Your heart rate comes into play. What's
yes,
going on around you comes into play. Your breathing is huge. I mean, to get a tight shot grouping takes a lot of training, and you hit it on the head. Police aren't trained well enough. They just aren't. Most places don't have the money. They don't have the resources to train those officers the way they need to be trained, especially since they're dealing with these lethal force cases. But like with this no knock here, they kick the door in, and if what I read is true, they kick the door in. The guy is laying on the sofa, and he's armed. Bad neighborhood. Okay, not illegal. Someone kicks the door in, I'm armed, I'm gonna pop up and I'm ready to engage that person. Police are coming around looking for bad guys. They're gonna shoot. So yeah, when you break that down, they didn't do anything wrong. Right? They engaged the way they should have engaged, the way they were trained to engage. But that's not your suspect. Now you got bad intel. You should have known that person was in there. Right. And then you got the whole no knock thing. This person didn't know that was law enforcement.
exactly.
So it's a real vicious circle there. And people like, oh man, you can't justify the police action. I'm like, well, I can look at that scenario and tell you that they probably didn't do anything wrong, but the problem is the no knock.
Exactly. So I see this. Thank you, Stefan, educated Tyrone. Mainstream media is part of the problem. I'd like for you to expound on that. It's very interesting. Yes, castle doctrine to a certain extent, because this is when people, people end up trying to use this, but then the police say they were justifiably issued a warrant. Hey, King Messiah, I see you in the back. Thank you for coming up. Yeah, this is. I can't go into the legal. I don't know. I want to give legal. Let me put up my little like disclaimer. I can't give y'all legal advice because police are different. Police are different when it comes to that. So if you have a legal issue, please contact an attorney directly. I'm not one to give any legal advice. This program is just for educational and entertainment purposes only. But if you have a specific question about things like castle doctrine and things, you need to contact an attorney specifically about an issue that you present, right? So they can give you a full assessment specific to you, right? So we'll just get that out the way. I'm gonna leave that alone, Andre, because I have thoughts on that. But
But
yes,
like you
you do
said,
have the right to protect your home. But I'm gonna put add a but there. But yes, that's where it gets complicated. Hey Reese, nice to see you.
you
Ace
know,
says, go ahead,
Suzette,
Dio.
I think you hit on the head when you were talking about the fear. You have these people. Let's face it. Law enforcement isn't the highest paid career, and you don't need a lot of education or training to get in. They're gonna train you. So, my buddy and I, we talk about this all the time. When Black Lives Matter hit and they were talking about defunding the police, I'm like, that's absolutely the wrong thing to say. Now, of course, I understand what defund the police means. They're talking about the redistribution of services and monies, but you need high paid police officers that are highly trained.
Absolutely.
You need that because there's a fear to run into a situation knowing you're gonna get shot at. Right? Yes, you can train to deal with that, but it takes a lot of training. Like
Absolutely.
I talk about the military stuff all the time. I am used to taking rounds. I as a soldier, especially as a paratrooper, we can go somewhere and people will shoot at us. We will not return fire until we have the orders to do so.
Wow.
Now, that takes a tremendous amount
Discipline.
of discipline, takes a tremendous amount of training to get to that point, right? And you see people getting hit, and we're wearing the appropriate gear. But here's the thing: police officers don't have that level of training and discipline. So when you're a cop and you're afraid and all you want to do is get
Issue,
home. Police
yeah.
officers say this all the time. I just want to get home to my kids. You're in the wrong field.
That reminds me of the same Dante Wright with Officer, was it Kim Potter, 19-year vet, and pulled the wrong gun.
Yes.
According to her, pulled the wrong gun. I can't even get into that case. No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let King Messiah just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. You ready? You say I see you fixing up. Okay, let's go. All right, let me add him to the conversation. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hopefully you can hear me. This is my first time on live.
I see you. Yes, sir. First time. Welcome. I see you was busy in the comments, so I'm glad you took it from the comment section right up here on the stream. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna read a couple more comments first, then I'll get your comment. So A says, okay. I mean, when someone files a complaint, all police have to say is that the officer followed their training. They're off the hook. This is kind of, it's a catch-22 because you need the training, and it's the same thing with like any business with HR policies or whatever. You cover yourself with training and trying to, prepare people as much as you can prepare them. But of course, human behavior is unpredictable. So they're going to try to train you. They're going to try to keep you within, this kind of the confines of practical, application of what you're learning. But as you said, people go outside of that all the time, but use it as a defense. So it's a catch-22 because they're going to need the training. They're going to need it. Stefan Educated Tyrone says they treat white serial killers with kid gloves. So training is not the issue. Okay, thank you for your opinion. Ace Butterfly adds, police will go and tie up loose ends after the complaint. There's a lot of nepotism in policing too. G-Man, welcome, says, some bail bondsman was banging on my door. Wow, about 10 years ago, I got my gun. I looked out the window. I said, who the F are you? They said, we looking for somebody. And I said, you two almost got shot. Listen, I've heard. Have you guys even heard repo of people? I've heard repo and the car scratching off and pop, pop. This is what go. People, let me tell you, we don't play in Florida. I don't know what state are you in? Would you mind sharing?
I'm in Atlanta.
ATL, okay. Yeah. Georgia boys don't play about their stuff either.
Yep.
It's an open carry state up there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. Here, and Andre says, they say 5% of every profession is bad. The percentage of bad police has to be higher. I don't know. Your opinion. Stefan says they have the capacity to have common sense and be peaceful when they want. Interesting. Stefan adds probably about 60% of cops. I don't think it's that high. I think we hear about the bad ones. It's amplified by media, etc. Ace Butterfly says it might be a hiring, not training problem. Police hire the wrong people, so training is useless. There you go. Interesting take. Thank you. Mainstream media won't go into no-knock warrants. I know. I think it's like a political hot potato. It's gonna, ruffle a few feathers. It causes some people to do some stuff, and police will lose certain protection. Stephen adds, they will parrot police department talking points without any criticism. Yeah, G-Man, I'm so curious about that. G-Man, did you complain after the experience? Yeah, that got me nervous. Yeah. Stefan is going deep. I can't read all of them, but it says CNN, Fox, and NBC are local news, are just propaganda arms of the government. Thank you. Yes, we're not doing legal advice here. We're just waxing. We're having a conversation, throwing back and forth, ideas. Let me see. Has everyone hit the like button? Please do as you come in. G-Man adds, that's what I was looking for. Ace, we started talking. The crazy thing is the guys were very cool. 2 young white guys. We talked on my porch for about, listen, that could have been a whole different outcome. People coming up on you. Nah, what state are you in, G-Man? I'm interested. Ace adds, G-Man, you should have filed a complaint. That could have ended your life. You could prevent future incidents. All right, so thank you. So King, am I saying it right, Messiah?
Yep, you're saying it right.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the outcome of today's decision to not prosecute the officers? What are your thoughts?
Yep. Well, once again, thanks for having me on the platform. Been supporting you, and I appreciate you allowing me on the platform tonight.
Of course.
I want to get out the comment section, at least get on and just vocalize some things, because I did say that, but I think definitely it's not a training issue, because the FBI put out a memo stating that law enforcement has been infiltrated by racists and supremacists and all that stuff, right? I don't want to use too many words, but it has been infiltrated. So I think the root cause is you can't train humanity into a person. Like, a police officer who tases a 75-year-old woman, and they say, well, we need to deal with the training. That goes to the core of who that police officer is, So I just want to, and I think Ace was saying in the comment section that training it's almost like a scapegoat. Whenever somebody does something that's completely egregious or whatever, they say we got to go to the training. But and I think the fabric needs to be addressed, which is, who are we hiring? And I think a complete audit needs to be done on the personnel, social media posts, lifestyles, tattoos, because if the FBI put that memo out that let us know, inform the public, like, hey guys, we've been infiltrated. The entire law enforcement has been infiltrated. And I'm not saying that the people who were involved with this case probably, were some of those people, but I just think the grand scope of things, it's a lot deeper than just training. You know what I mean? It's so much. So
you're saying, there's I've read some of this in terms of, there has been reports by the FBI, as you've alluded to, that talk about more, I don't even know if it's saying right wing would be the right word. I would almost say like anti-government, or even folks who are beyond, on the fringes, I'm gonna put it that way, being inside some law enforcement agencies. And you're thinking that as long as we have that, as long as there's some indication that, within, I think it was in LA, they had people that was in gangs that was inside the police department, and people who had like killed tattoos and whatnot. And they I don't know if all that's true.
You're right.
I'm reading it just along, with you guys. Go ahead, DL. DL, want to jump in?
Yeah, you're touching into a few other things, like and I would agree. The reason I emphasize training so much, because proper training addresses culture. And what Brother King is talking about has more to do with police culture than it does to proper training or lack of training. Don't get it twisted. The training is lacking across the board. Local law enforcement up to the state level is lacking. Feds, they get trained properly. FBI, DEA, ATF, for the most part, they get better training. But the local municipalities, state and local level, they don't have the money. And with respect to LA, what's going on in LA? These are cops. Like, these are people that came in, they got into, and there's really a problem within the LA County Sheriff's Department and LAPD. They got in, and these are guys from great, suburban neighborhoods, this and that. They get into the police world, and the culture tells them they have to be a certain way. So they begin to join in these social groups, and they have tats, but they're just gangs. And they have become,
that's a gang.
Right, and they've become the people that they were, quote unquote, hunting. These gang cops, they out there putting in work. And if you don't back these guys up, if you don't join their gangs, they don't back you up on the street.
Wow.
And that could cost you your life. Now, again, how can that be addressed? Come on, Saint, you talking about training. Training does that. Proper training. Like, I'm always talking about that flag behind me, that airborne thing, right? We train a certain way. We train to a certain standard, and that leads to a certain culture, period. With my training as a paratrooper, I'll go anywhere in the world. Today, my old butt, 51 years old, right? I'll go and do what I got to do because I am properly trained, and I come from a culture where I know I can get it done. Police culture is to a point where they believe they can do anything, and the courts have been backing them. So they're like, we can get away with anything. So they're going to rob people. They're going to steal people. They're going to assault people, right? They're going to do these things because they're not getting paid a lot of money, right? And that's definitely wrong, but I don't know the circumstance. You pull over some drug dealer, he's got $80,000 cash. He's like, bro, just take it.
And leave me alone.
Just take it, right? And gas is
Um,
$6 a gallon, and you got 3 kids that you can't
yeah,
afford,
you
and your
like,
wife is giving you a hard time,
right.
right? And you know, like, man, I could take this $80,000 and I ain't got to worry about my mortgage for the next maybe
Mhm.
year or something like that. Yeah, it's wrong to do it, but that's what they're faced with.
Yeah.
Proper training could possibly address that. So, I mean, and that's what I was saying. Again, I'm not trying to stand up for cops,
Yeah, no,
but
but it
they
sounds
got a
like
tough
you
job.
just want a culture change. You're saying training is broader than how to use the gun and when to use the gun. Training includes culture and integrity and values,
And most
is what I'm
important,
hearing.
accountability.
Accountability to one another. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of it from a corporate point of view. I've been doing a lot of trainings, and when I do, public speaking and things like that, we talk about uh, values and value systems and things like this. And I do think it also depends. Every police entity, every police department is not the same. You got big city and you got small town. You have a lot of resources, you got a little resources, you got cultural differences. So I think that also plays into it. I mean, I'm not sure what they're doing in Minneapolis, but for them to have like back to back to back to back like issues there, something is up. I don't know if the feds need to come in and um, make a decree and do like observational review and try to hold, like you say, people accountable beyond, because I don't know if it's out of their hands. They like the mayor looking so dumb every time they come up. I don't say dumb, but just inept.
Oh, dumb. They look
And
dumb.
no, because it's like, but you gonna say something that's different from the last one, or are you gonna say something the same? Like
No. And then I
they
would even
talked
do
about no knock warrants before, and it didn't apply, and now they're saying it again. They're gonna, I think Friday, stop or put a moratorium on all no knock warrants.
yeah,
Now
because
moratoriums can be lifted,
and
but
Brother King's in Atlanta, and that was
yeah.
just an example of what I mean by this training thing. The brother that was murdered at the Wendy's parking lot,
Hmm.
right? So, and I don't know, and it's been a long time since I've seen the video, but if you go back and watch the video, the first officer on the scene was really cool,
Yep.
and it was no issues going on with the brother that wound up dying
What's his
at the
name
scene.
again? Do you remember,
I
King?
forget his name. I
Oh
would have
my
to look
gosh,
it up.
now I feel like
We
I
could
was
look
having.
someone in the chat to tell us.
We're
But
gonna
the
say his name. Yeah.
so the brother on the scene was very compliant with the first officer.
Yeah.
The second officer showed up, right? A little smaller in stature, but he had this attitude. He wanted to kick some heads in.
Yeah.
And that's when things went bad.
Escalated.
That's
Yeah.
when it went bad. And you got these two guys, not to make it a racial thing, but you got these two white guys, and I guarantee you they're not from the hood, dealing with a brother who just want to go home. He's right around the corner, right? They tried everything. There's two. If me and my man can't subdue you, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be out there. That goes to training, right? You initiate this confrontation, and it's two of y'all, and y'all wind up shooting the man in the back because he got a hold of your taser.
Right.
Give me your badge and
Running
give me your
away.
gun.
Running away.
You gun, and the man was running away. You got his car, you got his registration, you got his license. Where is he gonna run to? He's gonna run to New Jersey. You got him. You know where he at. So, and it is one of those things. How dare you? Right? I'm better than you. I'm Mr. Big, and those guys. To my knowledge, I don't know what happened to those officers, but to my knowledge, I mean, to me,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You got to be held accountable for that. That's absolutely wrong. And if they were trained properly, I would hope that would have ended differently, because that second police officer had an attitude, and it was that attitude that led to the confrontation, and that confrontation led to that brother dying that night.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen great police accountability. I saw a video of here in, I think it was the city of Sunrise, Florida. There was a police, I think it was a higher ranking, say, I don't know who's higher, captain or sergeant, you tell me, TL.
Captain.
Captain. So the police captain came on the scene where a suspect who was already in handcuffs in the police car was, for some reason, he was upset with what was going on. And I talk about, smaller departments. He comes in, he's like trying to get the suspect to tell him some information. So the lower ranking officer, who happened to be a woman, saw like he was getting kind of rough on the suspect. So she grabs him by his belt. Like the junior officer grabs the senior officer, who was an older man, by the belt. She happens to be a female, and she's like, seeing things like get out of hand. He turned around on her, and I'm talking about almost choked her. Was like, "Get your hand off me!" To another officer. Like, it made news down here. We were all like, you know, what's his wife saying, guys? I'm sorry, I said that because in my heart, that's the first thing I was like, if you would do that to your coworker, what you doing at home, bruh? Like, he turned around on her and he was like, ugh. And thankfully, a body camera was on, and then immediately he told everybody to turn their body cameras off. So in her trying to do the right thing, seeing that he was getting ready to rough up the purported suspect, pulled him like no one could like get him like cap, like stop, like in a, not I say gentle, but waist belt. How else do I stop a grown man, probably so much stronger than me, to come cool down? And he turned around on her so fast. It just made me think about, like, when cops try to do the right thing, are they backed up? Do they have the support? Are
It's
they
the
able to
culture.
go to work the next day?
Who's gonna back you up? It's the culture. I would have tased him if I was her. I'd have pulled my taser.
You can't
I'd have zapped him real quick. Ain't nobody playing with you. But again, I come from a different culture.
When he put his hand on her neck, I'm talking about, it was a reflexive, like, girl, what you doing? Don't ever do that. Like, I was like, yikes.
Yeah, I'd be like, bzzz.
Yo, it frightened me. It frightened me. Like, watching it, those things that are just jarring, just like this particular case was jarring. But I think about it because I know there are so many good cops. I do not want to be on the side of, all of them have the same mindset, same, lack of, some would say, integrity. Not me, right? But when we get these that are, trigger happy or just afraid of being on the job, bro, I want to hope that there are other alternatives for them in terms of work, in terms of, trying to make a living, so that we are not getting people who don't feel, like they have what it takes to be in command, to not lead with ego, to show up and not be afraid of darker skinned people. Not that every cop is saying that. I'm just saying some people I've clearly seen in my personal experience, like, they walk into a club, they walk into a wherever, and they look frightened that it's full of Black people. Not everybody does that. Not everyone has that as their, issue. But if you're policing me, I'm gonna need you to, be able to identify my face is not a threat. I'm gonna need you not to just see my hairstyle and my body and my melanated skin and think, oh, I gotta go home today. Let me start going crazy. I've seen, all of us have seen it. All of us have seen it, because there's bad apples in every profession. But nonetheless, I don't want to go too deep, because I've seen things where I'm like, God, if this is what we're dealing with. But again, that's one little snippet. We happen to get it, released in the public, but there's a ton of people doing what's right. But here, so do you think anybody on a federal level will do anything about no-knock warrants? Or do you think this is just...
Well, before I leave, I'm gonna let
sovereign
y'all,
immunity, where cops are no longer immune from prosecution?
Well, I think that if you do stop the no-knock warrant because of the fabric that the system was kind of created on, I think there'll be another, no-knock this, or there'll be another trap door, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But a solution, because I am a solution-oriented type of man, I do think that maybe communities need to be served by people that are from that culture. For an example, like, if there's a police task force that's going to be patrolling Atlanta, the majority, not all, need to at least have some type of connection to Atlanta, so they're not driving 2 hours away to patrol this, this lower income community, because they won't be scared of the community, because maybe they went to the local high school or they have family in that community. But if there's this complete disconnect between the people that are serving and the people that are being served, you're going to have what you guys mentioned earlier. People are literally scared. They're shooting out of fear and so forth. But I do appreciate the platform, and I just think that at the highest level, maybe the Supreme Court level, that change needs to be made to the judicial system. And I am thinking positive that it will be made. I'm hoping that it will be made, because the way that it's heading, it just seems like no justice is being served to people of color or minorities, however we want to phrase it, so.
Yeah.
But
And real
Brother
quick,
King,
before, I was going to just ask y'all one more question before we go.
Oh, yeah.
And shout out to Andre giving us the research for Shot Brooks was the name of the man that was shot in that Wendy's parking lot. Didn't they burn down the Wendy's?
Yeah.
Atlantans don't play. They was like, guess what we're going to do for y'all? We're going to take care of this. I don't advocate violence. I'm not. It's getting late, guys. I'm just trying to bring some levity to the conversation, although that's a serious crime. But so one of the other solutions that was constantly being mentioned by Officer Daly was that more people who look like us need to join the police academies around this country. Do you think we can take that approach? Do you think we could ever convince more folks? I mean, we have this culture of like, don't snitch, don't sell out. I mean, down here, Jamaicans be like, Bon Babylon, meaning like we don't mess with the police, that kind of thing. Do you think that approach might ever take hold? And would it possibly make a difference in outcomes?
I was going to ask Brother King. I was going to ask Brother King something because you made a really good point with more people of color policing the neighborhoods of color, right? That was great. So, and I'm old, so you may not be familiar, but I would argue my only pushback to that would be the Red Dog, right? Red Dogs were big brothers, and I don't know if they're still around, but like when the Red Dogs came, right? The Red Dog Police came. It was big brothers, and it was the same. It was the same. Like Red Dog came, it was like I'd rather the white guy.
Talking about, explain what you're talking about.
Are they still around, Brother King?
They are still around. They're not as active. Red Dogs are basically a task force that'll jump out on you. You'll just be standing on the sidewalk. They'll jump out, search you, throw you in the car. They just do as they will with you. And
this is like undercover policing?
They had hard uniforms. They were like stormtroopers.
Yeah. So they'd be overt, covert. They were just bold. You knew.
This is like a stop and frisk type thing?
Times 10 on steroids.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, certain neighborhood. But when the Red Dog, you knew it was Red Dog when they showed up. And I'm not a Southern guy. I'm not from Atlanta, but I know about the Red Dog.
Wow.
Right. But my point was, all the Red Dogs I saw were brothers. So that was to your point. I'm like, I don't necessarily know that that's the answer if the culture doesn't change, and the culture could change through training. Right. That's my whole point. But with respect to the political side of things, it's bad politics to be against the police. It's just bad politics. No one's gonna stand against police doing
soft on crime.
They're just not gonna do it. They're not, especially doing like an election year or whatever. They're just not gonna do it. No. If you're in the South and you're a Democrat, you're certainly not gonna say anything bad about the police. Yeah. Right? Maybe you can get away with it in the Northeast. Maybe you can get away with it in LA, but it's hard. Their union is strong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Real strong. Their lobby. And
the people that support them
are huge.
They don't play.
Mega.
They don't play.
Mega, as opposed to MAGA.
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, we on the night shift. Says Mixed Pastor Miko, nice to see you here. Ace Butterfly says more Black people are not going to solve the problem. Once you get into the system, if you want to make the difference, you will stagnate your career. Wow. Yeah. So final comments, gentlemen. Like I said, I wasn't going to go extra late tonight. Any final comments about the AMIR LOCKE situation? Any final comments about policing or what we can do to improve? Or, anecdotal stories about things that hopefully give us hope, or maybe not. If you want to share before you go, let me know.
I would say the final thought for me would be get more African Americans in particular into the police academies, into the system. The system is rigged already against us. We're over policed, and everything that happens to us is documented. You cannot get into a major metropolitan police department if you have certain types of, definitely any felonies and certain types of misdemeanors, right? If a sibling has a felony or a misdemeanor, you're not going to get through you're not going to get through just the application process. So it's set up to where it's very difficult for people of color from the hoods that we were talking about. We want them to patrol, to actually become law enforcement. It just won't happen. So, I mean, and it's not like they don't let you go patrol the suburbs, but they will take the people from the suburbs and put them in the hoods. And that's where we have these problems. So, I mean, politically, there has to be major changes. And what I would do if I were in charge, Speaker of the House, or if I was President of the United States, I would make all law enforcement training federal. So if you're going to be a cop in Atlanta, you're going to be a cop in LA, you're going to be a cop in Miami.
One standard.
You got to go through the federal law enforcement training, and the washout rate would be somewhere around 75%, which means most people won't make it, and those who do make it will make money. This is something that my buddy Jay Swan said. He was like, it would be a minimum, no matter where you work, you're making $100,000 a year if you're law enforcement.
That's like basically the federal. That's like FBI. FBI is well trained, well vetted. FBI is, they don't let everybody in that, and
Right.
that literally that standard should be very close to what other people do in smaller or local, I should say.
Yeah. And people were saying that that's not realistic because you can't pay that. I'm like, no, the government would simply subsidize the difference. If like the big cities can pay $100,000 to start, no problem. But the small cities, okay, we can pay 50. Great. The government would kick in the other $50,000. They're going to get $100,000 a year, and they're going to be held to a standard. And if it will be a hard job to keep, but the people who keep it will be top-notch individuals.
Well, I like it. I like the way you think. Thank you, DL Saint, for coming through. Throw your channel in the chat, please, as you go. And I want to thank you so much. I'll talk to you offline. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming through.
Take care. Thank you.
And King, then there was one.
I'll be real brief.
Comments? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'll be real brief. I know it's late. I will say I would have loved to join when you had the officer on, because I want to ask him about the thin blue line. My final statements would be, I think if you get a lot of guys that want to make a difference and they join the force, I'm curious on, will the brotherhood allow the change? Because it is a brotherhood, it is a gang. Like you mentioned earlier, in California, it's a very popular, known gang, a police force that's everyone knows that they're a gang, really. And I'm just, the solution when you're dealing with this so a powerful organization that has that ability to really silence people. So if I join the force hypothetically and I wanted to make a difference from within, but the structure, the fabric of it, so it's
taking us back to like when it was like Chicago and we're in by the mob and they had the policemen paid off. People know about that.
Exactly.
That's why we had to get the feds. That's why you had J. Edgar Hoover and all these people come in and have to really bring a federal standard, because there was people all over the country that were unfortunately operating corruptly and paying off law enforcement and doing all kinds of stuff. We've come a long way from there.
Yeah.
But I hear you. You're saying, can it really make a difference? Because is that wall?
And I think it reaches to the feds.
Still there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it reaches all the way to the feds. But like I said, maybe you'll do a part 2. But it's something going on with when the FBI put out a memo and they let us know, like, hey, we've been infiltrated. This isn't my words. This is their words.
Homegrown terrorists.
Yeah, they're like, hey, they're inside this, from the judges to the prosecutors to the law enforcement. So that's why when we say that it's rigged and so forth, I'm not saying don't be productive people in society. I'm studying for the LSAT to be a lawyer myself. I'm inspired by you and the lead attorneys and all you all. But
make sure you take a prep class. You taking your prep class?
That's another.
You better do not take it cold. Try to get into a prep class. They have scholarships for that. Try to take a prep class if you can. You gonna take it when? This fall?
I take it at the end of April. Yeah, April 29th.
You got this. I'm not even gonna put nothing else in your mind. You got this.
So
you got this.
I'm hoping that
this your first time? This your first time taking it?
Say that again.
Is this your first time taking it?
Yeah, it's my first time taking it. Yeah. So
did you buy prep books though?
No. I just bought.
Nah, we gonna have a problem. Why you cannot take these tests cold, man?
I know. I'm so nervous. And I don't want to derail the conversation.
But
maybe I'll DM you.
Stay in the back for a quick second. I won't do you like this on here. Stay in the back for a quick second, please. I'm in your business now. But I want to thank King Messiah for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. I
want to encourage you, but I want to give you just 2 minutes. Okay, stay in the back.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming up, my brother. Again, y'all, I just wanted to give you a quick update. Again, this case was something that I covered extensively early on, and I wanted to let you know again that there would be no charges filed. So if you want more information, of course, check out what is going on in the AMIR LOCKE case. What you can do, I'm sure there will likely be a civil suit filed by his parents against so many different parties, all those involved. Let's just put it like that. Again, hit the like button on your way out. Little late night streaming. I as soon as I said I will not be doing streams at 11 at night, guess what I'm doing? Streams. So I won't be on tomorrow because I've been doing 2 or 3 nights in a row. So no Thursday, Friday, but definitely Saturday and most likely Sunday. Awesome. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button. There's the Cash App. And of course, I have a Patreon guest speaker, Miss Frankie Red. I think we're going to confirm for this Saturday. She has a bunch of topics she speaks on. So we're going to I need to finalize with her tomorrow what the actual topic will be so I can make a thumbnail and give my people a little notice in my Patreon. But if you are not a Patreon member, go over to patreon.com. We're growing. I appreciate all of you who support me through Patreon. You guys are the best. Thank you for supporting my content and my message. If you want behind the scenes or when I'm out and about in Miami or some specialized speakers, one-on-one kind of personal development that we don't get here on YouTube, go check me out. Y'all better go check me out. Patreon.com/Suzette Speaks. I've enjoyed hanging with y'all tonight. You have a great evening, and I'll see you guys most likely Saturday. Take care. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.